Hello and welcome to Crafting Bharat, Brand Ki Baat, an industry-first podcast that takes you behind the curtain to meet the people who bring brands to life. I'm your host Amrit Ahuja, a full-time vice president at AdFactors PR, a part-time influencer and a proud mom to two firecracker daughters navigating it all. And I'm very excited to have you join me today. In this podcast, we're deep diving into stories that you don't usually hear. The hustle, the heart and all those late nights. It's about celebrating the creative chaos and the icons behind the brand that inspire, innovate, and shape our narrative. Today, we've got an exciting conversation lined up with an incredible professional who has seen it all and done it all. She will share her insights and stories and maybe even spill a little tea. This series is proudly brought to you by Newsreach, India's leading PR tech platform, in association with VC Circle and our production partner, HT Smartcast. A special thank you to our segment partner, Blue Tea, our gifting partner, The Forbidden Journeys, and our wardrobe and styling partner, White Chaos, in case you missed how good my outfit looks. And joining me today is an incredible professional with hordes of experience, and she will really give us some interesting insights and hopefully some interesting stories as well. Welcome, Amrit Ahuja. Really happy to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Very glad to be here with you.
So we have a slightly different kind of an innovative format, and we like to kick off with something that's called the pitch.
Okay.
Because that is, of course, the favorite KRA of every PR professional. So we'd like you to pitch yourself to us and tell us a little more about your experience and what you do now.
Okay, that's a tough one with no preparation because pitches means that you get a lot of time. Well, I'm a communication consultant now. Been in this field for about 30 years. Did 20 years of hardcore working in the capitalist world, bringing in a lot of communication strategies for technology brands. You name a brand, and I'm very proud that whether it was a Google or a Netflix or a Facebook, and back in the years of a Hewlett-Packard, Canon, Intel, pretty much worked on communication strategies when they came into India. And last role was as communication director at Meta India. And that led to my soul searching as to what's my purpose. And I quit and said, snap it now, man. Otherwise, you're not going to be ready for the future. Went back to studying, went to Ashoka University,
Wow.
Did a course on the impact space. And here I am now today. So I do two things. I help brands build communication strategies in the social impact space, and I have individuals meet their impossible dreams. So I mentor and I coach a lot of senior women leaders and other leaders on how to, kind of meet their aspirations in brands. So, is the business mine, ma'am?
No, and I really want to tap into one of those things because that's what I had read about you as well, that you work with a lot of women leaders.
That's right.
And the journey for women in any profession, not just comms, is so different because I have two daughters, they're 5 and 10, and I took a career break. We also had multiple country changes. I was a journalist earlier and somehow organically formed and entered PR after doing something else in between. And a lot of women leaders that I meet do also struggle with the balance of when the family time comes, but when you're in middle management, right, ripe for that bigger promotion to leadership positions. So I found it really interesting on how you work with women leaders on empowerment and growing further. And that is something I'd really like to know more about. Anything interesting that you want to tell us, any insight or story that you think really inspired you as well?
So I think what really inspired was my journey. I was a young mom and, two children, took a career break for 12 years.
Wow.
And after 12 years, it was like I have to pick up the threads. And when I picked up the threads, I was in the communication industry and worked with very young people. And every evening there was a drinking party. And I was going back to homework. I was like, I'm sorry guys, can't join you, have to do homework, or my child is down with fever. And I realized the struggle it was to be having children at home, but at the same time, wanting to do well in your career. And I was like very determined that I have taken a break and now I cannot take a break again. And I realized that's the story of a lot of women. So my whole journey was about how can I empower more and more women to just, not take a break when it's the crucial time to just make the leap to the next level. Because what happens when you're in the mid-level of a career, that's the time that you're burning both ends. Your family needs you, the career needs you, but yes, there is a way out, and that's what I do. I mean, most of my coaching assignments are with women, and it is true that women do have a lot of imposter syndrome, and if I can just help them get over that imposter syndrome and get them find a path by balancing both, that's what I do. So yes, it's lots of success stories.
Very interesting and very inspiring. And I guess everyone has their own journey and preferences with what they want to do, right? So you have to figure out a way to navigate with what they prefer. Coming to your experience in comms, it is extremely extensive. What do you think has been one of the biggest changes that you have seen in the last 10 years in the comms industry?
So two things that I've seen change. One is, I think, the way we did PR 30 years ago, or even say 20 years ago, which was a lot of media relations, press releases, etc., does not exist now. Today, it's about thinking first with a digital lens. And yeah, this industry very quickly evolved to that. And now, yes, AI is knocking on our doors. And I think this industry is going to really make some big changes. And the second big trend that I have seen is a lot more younger people coming into this business. And the gray hair completely moving out. So there are very few like me who continue to stay in. More and more gray hair are moving out. And I think over the next few years, I think what will happen is that there will be a lot of individual consultants like me. I'm going to see that evolve in India. It's a trend in the US or other evolved markets. So I think it's going to look great for the PR professionals.
You mentioned that that's a trend that you see in some of the markets abroad. What are some of the other things that you think are different when it comes to comms in India versus some of the global brands or the other countries, how comms are functioning in a slightly more, maybe they've moved to some trends. For example, when I was working in Singapore, I realized integration had come in much earlier over there, and comms by default meant integrated comms. So any more such findings or trends that you feel are yet to come here, but you definitely think they will?
Most of the trends are very much here because we live in a global world.
Yeah.
But I think all the R&D, or whether on AI and building some of the platforms, that happens first in the western part of the world. So in the western part of the world, there is a lot more stress on listening to digital conversations and mapping some of those trends and getting into those. It's beginning to happen over here, and all that listening and really getting your campaign in happens a lot with AI. And when I'm talking to agencies over here, they're still finding their feet of how they're going to do that.
Okay. No, I see personally like that a lot of them are jumping into contextual listening and social listening, and it's being used especially for pitches so much. And now even on how reporting had earlier changed, and we're making it part of our reporting as well. But I hope I agree with you. I hope it becomes more and more in trend with let's say a default usage.
Yeah, and I think one thing that happened in the Western world was that PR definitely always had the seat at the CEO's table. In India, 10% of the companies probably will have the seat at the CEO's table, and now it will change because
I agree.
It's going to be really great because PR is going to be that one function that will bring in a lot of kind of bring integration of functions within an organization, and the CEO will have the ear of the PR person, and that's something that's going to be very, very fulfilling for the profession.
Of course, and I think the whole getting a seat on the board table where you're defining reputation versus just PR is where the change is going to be. So on that note, we'll take a quick tea break and jump into our next section, which is What's the Tea, that's brought to us by Blue Tea. And here I'll ask you a few questions, but and I want you to just give candid, honest answers based on your experience. Anything, any quirky story or anything very fun or different that you remembered. Any PR crisis that you had to handle where you thought this is it. This is the one that's going to kill me.
Well, a media walkout on a global CEO's visit.
Wow.
I don't know who has handled that. It still gives me goosebumps when I talk about it. But I have had that a global CEO was in Bangalore, inaugurating a center, investing big money into the country. And remember, these were days when, the technology investment was just building up in the country. And we had a global media walkout because of some logistics issue. Because the client felt that that's the order that they should follow. Agency just went with what the client was saying. So there were about 100 media people. And just when the CEO was walking in, one person got up and said, we need to walk out. And you know what happens when there's one bad apple. And, so everybody just said, okay, we'll call the buses and we're going to get onto the buses. And they climbed onto the buses and went. 3 smart media guys who were the international media stayed back because they knew that there was a big announcement figure. So yeah, we can talk all night about it, but yes.
But yeah, that would have definitely given like a heart attack.
But I learned so much because of that. I can run a full crisis simulation class, and all of those things that I learned still work today.
Wow,
so, yeah.
wow. If you had to tell us an unwritten rule about communications, what would that rule be?
Curiosity. Curiosity, curiosity, and curiosity.
Do you feel that's, so being a former journalist, that's one of the things that I would say we're always curious to know more, and
Yes.
we always want to go after the story. So you feel that the PR professionals need to have that same
Absolutely.
zest for where does the story lie?
Absolutely, and also, have the ability to step into the journalist's shoes and
Yeah.
say, is this a story that will sell? And also have the gumption to, reason with your client and say, not good enough, tell me more. Ask the right questions, because clients, just think that whatever they're saying is going to make news. But no, you got to have the news sense, and that only comes when you're curious.
Completely agree,
Yeah.
completely agree. Just a fun one. How many times have you said, we'll get back to you without any plan in mind?
All the time. All the time. Because you can't be a genius of having a plan all the time. Yeah.
And what's the most creative excuse you have used to miss a deadline?
The most creative excuse, I've never lied to a client.
Nice.
Because I think that's what's helped. I'm upfront. If I'm not ready with something, I'd always give a heads up and say, hey, we're going to be delayed. My team is not ready with it. So we need a few more hours. So I've never lied to a client. So this one I'll have to pass.
And I think that's what the relationship is about, right?
Yes.
It's more like being partners and
Exactly.
moving that conversation and having that trust in each other that everyone is trying their best.
Yeah.
Great. On that note, we'll move to the last section of our podcast, which is rapid fire. I will throw some questions at you, and all you have to do is say the first word that comes to your mind.
All right.
Biggest misconception about PR?
It's about pushing press releases and getting coverage.
I agree with you. The biggest risk you've ever taken in your career?
Left my Meta job without a job in hand.
Pitching or servicing?
Servicing.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. So most of them whom we've had here have said pitching. So I want to know more on why servicing.
Well, servicing, I think, is like an art form that you have in your mind, and you see it come together bit by bit. It cannot be overnight. Pitching is like overnight success. It gives you the high.
Yeah.
But servicing is the relationship, just putting it all together, telling the story. It's like weaving a carpet.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
Wonderful. No, that's not, because I am more of a
Servicing person?
pitch.
You're a more pitch person.
Full pitch, all the time pitching ideally. So I like, it's a nice perspective, and never thought of servicing with the way you put it
No,
across.
servicing is so fulfilling because I think I'm so relationship oriented. And I don't believe that, this can be a quick fix to anything.
On the other note, and with a lot of leaders and how pitching is involved too, so I feel the same way about pitching. But yes, the last statement that you made about it just really puts into perspective of how servicing really evolves that relationship together.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's a wonderful angle to it. The first word that comes to your mind when you hear branding?
Nike just do it, and their campaign every year, especially when they focus on women. That's what comes to my mind.
And I think they've learned well from the huge crisis that they had
Yes,
years ago.
yes, they did.
Meetings, virtual or in person?
Oh, in person. No way. Virtual is not me. Especially when people don't switch on their cameras.
I get that.
I hate it.
Yeah. One book or a quote that inspires you?
Still to be written, bits and pieces from everywhere. But I don't think there's one that completely inspires me. And, it's just a lot of personalities, a lot of people, a lot of books. I tend to take little bits from everywhere.
Nice. Thank you so much, Amrit. It was
Thank you.
wonderful speaking to you. And
Thank
thanks
you.
so much for being
Thank
here.
you so much.
Yeah. And that's a wrap on the rapid fire round and this episode. Short, sweet, and full of surprises. Thank you to our guest for playing along and sharing all those fun moments. A big shout out to everyone for tuning in as well. This series is proudly brought to you by NewsReach, India's leading PR tech platform, in association with VC Circle and our production partner HT Smartcast. A special thanks to our segment partner Blue Tea, our gifting partner The Forbidden Journeys, and our wardrobe and styling partner White Chaos. Up until next time, stay tuned, keep crafting those stories, and we'll see you on the next episode.